Hello and welcome into CUTV High School Roundup. I'm your host, Dylan Goday, and joined with me today are two of the finest young gentlemen at Cal U, Colin Kirkwood and Devin Greena. Thank you guys for joining me.
Yeah, we're back here once again, another edition of High School Roundup, your mom's favorite high school roundup show out there in the state of Pennsylvania, so make sure to enjoy the high school action we've got for you today.
And Devin, you're becoming a staple on the show now after we were worried last week maybe his only time on here, but on here again.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back. Glad that you would have me back here. I'm more prepared and less nervous this time. So.
All right, there you go. So let's jump right into it now. With no Steve here today, you know what that means. We're going to have somebody else do the Laurel Highlands highlights. Colin, we've given those duties over to you, so you ready to give us your best Steve impersonation on the LH highlights?
Glad to take the baton from Steve as he's feeling a little bit under the weather today, but nonetheless, I will be the voice of LH's finest here today, so let's roll those highlights and take a look at what happened for those Mustangs. Starting off here with, they were playing Greensburg-Salem. Here's Dejan Herzog with a 13-yard rush on into the end zone. Man, look at those yellow unis for the Golden Tigers. Miguel Brumfield would get into the end zone for those Mustangs, drawing even once again. But then it would be back to Greensburg-Salem, so it would swing back and forth. Ryan Talbot with a 58-yard pass. Reception from Trent Patrick, and who knows, you might see that on top 3 plays later in the show. Don't want to spoil anything. Nonetheless, it's once again, it is Patrick, but this time he's going to run it into the end zone. A little bit of a QB keeper action here, so dual threat quarterback, gotta love that. Then check this out right here. We got a 77-yard run from Aaron Putt making his way up that far sideline, and boy, no one is going to catch him on that one. All the way into the end zone. Golden Tigers looking good. Golden Lions, rather. Lots of golden mascots. Nonetheless, here's Herzog once again. He picks up that fumble recovery and takes it back for 28 yards. Greensburg-Salem looking good here in this one. And then once again, it is Greensburg-Salem on into the end zone. It's Roberto Smith on that 1-yard run. But that wouldn't be all from this game here, as LH would get onto the board with Christian Burchak. He would have a 1-yard run of his own right here. Straight forward, right on into that end zone. And Greensburg-Salem would be all over those Mustangs and pick up that victory 48-12.
That was kind of a surprising game for us. We thought LH, Laurel Highlands, would have a better performance there in that one. But Devin, Greensburg-Salem got a big win.
Yeah, Greensburg-Salem, one of the top rushers in the WPIAL League here, and with Putt. And that's just something to look forward to. Their rushing team, they like to keep it on the ground. They're nitty-gritty on defense, as you can see, only giving up 12 points. Looking good, though, for further into the season.
And the defense looks tough, being able to stop the quarterback there from Laurel Highlands. He's one of the better players we've seen all season as well, Colin.
Yeah, Connor Basinger is definitely a really good player, good role player for that Mustangs team, and Greensburg-Salem is looking tuned up and ready to roll for their game with Belle Vernon this week on CUTV.
That they are. Let's take a look at the rest of the Big 8 scoreboards here from this past week. And starting out, Belle Vernon getting the win over Indiana. 49-14, big win there for Belle Vernon. Next is Thomas Jefferson defeating Trinity, blanking them there 48-0. And Colin, that win there for Belle Vernon, Mason Pasco has been quite the rusher for them this season.
Yeah, in that game, he rushed for 197 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's having one heck of a season, and look for him to keep his dominance in the WPIAL on display Friday night on CUTV.
Yeah, definitely. Devin, you saw where he's one of the top rushers in the whole WPIAL this season.
Yeah, he's actually number 3. He's the 3rd top rusher this season, so that's actually really impressive.
Yeah, quite an accomplishment. Next in the standings, Newcastle getting the win, slight edge over West Mifflin there, 14-0, and Gateway getting a big win over Ringgold, 62-0. Let's see how these games affected I think there's one more score. No, all right, into the standings. So Thomas Jefferson getting the win, takes them to 4-0 in the conference, 4-0 overall. And guys, we've been mentioning Thomas Jefferson dominance. Greensburg-Salem's looking tough. If they can get the win against Belle Vernon this week, that might shape them up to run down Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, it's really odd to see Bell Vernon towards the middle of the pack, the Big Eight here, but I have a feeling it's not going to stay that way because they're such a good team, and we've seen them really have their impact on the playoff scenarios throughout the entire league. So look for them to jump up in the standings here as the season moves on.
Yeah, definitely. They look like a tough team for sure. Does Bell Vernon, and that whole conference is tough from top to bottom. West Mifflin's looking good this year. Thomas Jefferson, of course. All those schools looking very difficult, Devin.
Yeah, they are all looking difficult, and obviously that will be one of the games that we were looking forward to this week, which is Bell Vernon. And I'm going to stick with Bell Vernon here just because I think that they have the bigger hand with the rushing, and they have that dual threat in the backfield there. So
yeah, Pasco's definitely one of the best players in the WPIAL, a player to look out for this week on CUTV's Game of the Week. Let's get into the interstate scoreboards now from this past week of games, and Yock getting the big win over Burrell there, 35-6. Deer Lake's getting the win over Mount Pleasant as well. There's some more scoreboards here from 3A, and a couple surprising ones there. Freeport getting the win over Uniontown, 55-16. We kind of expected that, but Derry blanking North Catholic, guys, 27-0. And Devin, this Derry team is looking really legit this season.
yeah, especially they're really, really pass heavy, because in this game alone, their wide receiver had 4 touchdowns in the air. So that's just a crazy thing to see nowadays. You usually see a spread out offense, but just one key offensive player with your receiver is just amazing.
Yeah, that is tough. And Colin, to blank a North Catholic team, which has as much talent as any team here in the Big East, to hold them scoreless, quite impressive for their defense as well.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, just the fact that we knew Derry was on the rise here this season, and as you said, just being able to shut out a North Catholic team that is just known as a powerhouse of a unit for this whole area just really shows that Derry is moving the right way as a program.
Let's head on to the last page of the scoreboards here. Elizabeth Ford gets the win over Quaker Valley, but this game was ended at halftime, and due to the rules here for the conference, they just went ahead and ended the game due to weather last week. So only 7-6, but this sets up a big win there for Elizabeth Ford and sets up a big game this week for Elizabeth Ford against that Derry team we were just talking about. And on into the standings now. Like we mentioned, Derry and Elizabeth Ford right at the top there. Both teams 3-0 and play against each other this week. Guys, that's one of the best games we can get here this week between Elizabeth Ford and Derry. The winner really controls their destiny to win that conference.
Yeah, the Elizabeth Ford really needs to shut down the passing game here because Justin Flack, the person we were talking about earlier, did catch 4 touchdowns. And if they can shut down them on offense with throwing, I think they can shut down the rushing offense as well, and Elizabeth Ford can score the ball.
Yeah, Colin, as well as that, the North Catholic team, don't be surprised if they come back and really be a factor in the Interstate Conference.
Yeah, you really can't count them out. I mean, being such a high-level talent team, knowing that they still have a chance to win this conference here. They'll have a couple games. They still have to play EF, so we'll need to think about that in the future. And if they can get into that game, perhaps maybe Derry takes a tumble, and just like that, they're right back in it.
We're about to hit our first break of the show, our only break of the show. We'll have CUTV highlights coming up from that Wash High-Cal High game. I saw an interesting tweet, guys. If you're from a different country and saw Washington versus California, you wouldn't quite know where that game was played. But we have highlights from those games, as well as some more standings, hometown standings, and your favorite section of the show, Pick'em. So stay tuned after the break for more high school football here on High School Roundup.
High school football is back on CUTV. Brownsville versus Bentworth. Upper Dauphin versus Millersburg. Charleroi versus Fraser. California versus Washington. Bell Vernon versus Greensburg-Salem. Elizabeth Ford versus North Catholic. Carmichaels versus Union. Ringgold versus West Mifflin. Beth Center versus Fraser. Catch all the action on your home for high school football. CUTV, California University Television.
And welcome back into High School Roundup here on CUTV. Let's get into the CUTV highlights. Devin, you have those highlights for us this week.
Yes, I do. Cal High and Wash High was a great game for Washington just to assert their dominance and be a really threat on offense and just show their defense. So let's get into these highlights. All right, first, Washington starts off big. Samir Robinson with this touchdown here. Just putting the moves here on Cal defender and getting into the end zone. They did go for 2 and didn't end up getting it, so they only were up 6-0. And right here, you can see Coachise Ryan getting the nice slick pass here right into the end zone, gets those feet down, and they go up 7-6. Washington comes back, and Swartz with another pass to Daniel Walker. Not Delaney, that is a San Francisco tight end here. And they go up 14-6. Right in here, Austin Grillo takes it in the end zone. They would try and go for 2 again, don't get it, so it will be 14-12. Grillo hands it off to Jelani Stafford, and he just goes up the middle. He asserted his dominance this game, showing him that he can run the ball. Washington answers back here. Asbury taken into the outside, cuts through, breaks 1 tackle, and takes it all the way to the end zone. As you can see here, Coachise Ryan, not enough speed to catch up to him, and he gets in the end zone. They go up 21-18, and then here's another pass by Swartz to Asbury. He puts the juke on him and gets right into the end zone. They go up 28-18 here. Washington, this is where we were a little confused here because Grillo comes in, and it looks like this Cal team's coming back, but not enough because Washington just keeps putting the pound on them here as they go up. Right here, Swartz taking this by himself. He can do it in the air and on the ground here, taking it into the end zone, and they go up 34-25. Right here, he fumbles the ball actually, picks it up, keeps his head up, and passes it to Isaiah Walton. So that was just, and nobody in sight there. That was just a great play and great awareness by Swartz there. Great pass. As you can see here on the replay, his head stays up, jukes the tackle, sees him wide open, passes right to him for the touchdown. Great thing, great route by Isaiah Walton getting over and coming back to the quarterback. And Washington ends up winning this game by a big margin, 41-25, which is really unexpected, Dylan, as you had this California team earlier in the season as one of your big picks.
Yeah, I did. And coming down, 5 minutes left in that game, California was only down by 3. So guys, California kind of impressed us, I think, a bit. They started off slow this season, but they kind of had an impressive performance against a Wash High team that we expected to just dominate this game from what they've shown so far this season, Colin.
Yeah, you really didn't expect them to be sitting in a 1-4 scenario right now, having to really look up in the conference that they're in. But nonetheless, I have a feeling they'll be able to salvage somewhat of a respectable season as long as they continue to give Jelani Stafford the football.
Since we had those California highlights, let's jump into the 1A standings and scoreboards now. So actually, we're going to go to the Interstate, so 2A here. So Brownsville getting the win over, Brownsville not getting the win, Southmoreland getting the win 59-0 over Brownsville. It's been a tough couple of weeks for the Brownsville Fighting Falcons there. Charleroi 69-7 over Carmichael's. And Colin, we know you love Carmichael's, but Charleroi keeping up their impressive season. 8-0 start, best start since their 8-0 start back in 1989.
Still have faith in my Mighty Mikes of Carmichael's here. I know they'll have a chance to get back into this season, rooting for them, and looking forward to our game of the week when we travel to see them in person.
Yeah, definitely. That will be an exciting, I think it's Carmichael's Union this season. And more scoreboards now. The surprising one of the week, for sure, has to be McGuffey getting a 48-14 win over Best Center. Devin, that impressed us all. McGuffey, we kind of knew they're legit contender, but they just blanketed there with Best Center.
Yeah, Best Center in this game struggled to score on the offense and struggled to stop them from scoring on the defensive side, and that's just one of those slump weeks that a team has, and Best Center just kind of got the bad end of the stick there.
That they did. Christian Clutter for McGuffey has been a dominant force all season. Even there with Fraser over Brentwood, Fraser getting a nice win, a non-conference win nonetheless. But again, the interstate standings now, McGuffey, Charleroi, Beth Center. Southmoreland, Washington. That any of those teams right there could make the playoffs coming in there. Colin, quite a tough conference is the Interstate this season.
Yeah, super tough indeed. I mean, let's not even forget, think about it, Southmoreland might even have a chance to creep into the conversation here. They weren't that far from the top in the standings, so a lot of different teams to choose from here in this fantastic conference.
Yeah, we kind of slept on McGuffey the first couple weeks talking about Best Center, Charleroi, Washington. Yeah. And next thing you know, McGuffey comes in and just dominates the Best Center team, Devin.
Yeah, this league has a lot of good quarterbacks as in Charleroi, Washington, and Best Center, all of them. Actually, Swartz is the seventh pass yards leader with 1,070 yards. And I think that can be a key to Washington kind of bumping up in the rankings here and maybe securing a playoff spot later in the season.
Yeah, definitely. Losing to Charleroi early definitely hurt them, but they've bounced back in a big way. Now let's take on the 1A scores and standings now. Jeff Morgan beating an Avella team. That Avella team has struggled this season. Same with that Mapletown team, losing to Bentworth there 49-0. On into more scores here. As Bentworth, again, just blanketed that Mapletown team. Mapletown struggling again, like we mentioned this season. The surprise in the TriCounty South was West Green getting the big 24-6 win over Monessen. We saw Monessen show some promise. I mean, beating a Cal High team, going down a level and beating a 1A California team. But then West Green, off to quite a hot start, Colin.
Yeah, Ben Jackson, their quarterback, scored 3 touchdowns and rushed for 125 yards on the ground as well. They really are looking like a team that can go deep in the playoffs this year. They can break a 24-year playoff drought, so look out for that.
Yeah, definitely. West Green, team to look out for here in the Whitfield. Stowe Rocks there getting the win over Char Houston. Kind of a mismatch there. Not the Char Houston team. They're going to that Stowe Rocks game. They're going to definitely not expect to get a big win. That's a tough Stowe Rocks team. So now on into the standings here, the Tri-County South standings. Guys, West Green, who can beat them? They've already beaten Monessen and a couple other teams in this conference. Sitting at 4-0, Colin, is there a team that you think can come up and beat this West Green team?
I honestly think that early in the season they've shown that they can really flex their muscle and kind of just own this conference here. I don't see anybody that's going to stand in their way. I think it's going to be a fruitful and productive postseason for them this year.
Yeah, definitely. I think their toughest opponent left maybe is Cal High, Devin.
Yeah, Cal High needs to, if they want any chance of getting into the playoffs, they have to beat this team, and that's going to be hard.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for anybody to knock off that West Green. But let's get now into the 5A scores and standings here on High School Roundup. And Penn Trafford playing against Albert Gallatin there. We love Albert Gallatin, but that is quite the mismatch there with Penn Trafford calling 70-0.
Yeah, Penn Trafford definitely showing that they are one of the best teams that the state of Pennsylvania has to offer, but nonetheless, Albert Gallatin giving it their best effort, not their best day.
I don't think that Connellsville scores right. I think Latrobe beat Connellsville. I'm not quite sure about that, but there we have it, 14-9. And actually, Devin, you have a look at that. 49-14, Latrobe beat Connellsville there.
Yeah, Connellsville hung in the game until the end here, which they just got blanketed in the second half. Yeah. Latrobe just offensive powerhouse in the second half here.
Yeah, it was 21-14 at the half, so they hung right in. And Ringgold have only scored 6 points this season so far, and they were definitely in a tough mismatch there with Gateway. Gateway getting the win 62-0, and Franklin Regional, big non-conference win as well. On into some more Big East football here, as we are on into the McKeesport beating Plum 54-0. And McKeesport's a team, guys, that just wins big one week and then loses a game that they probably should win, like they lost last week. And on into the standings, you can see how this Big East Conference is shaking out. Gateway sitting at the top there, 3-0, 5-0 overall, one of the top teams in the entire state. Colin, they have quite a tough test this week, though.
Yeah, really, it's going to show what kind of grit and what kind of mentality this Gators team has here. They're really looking to cement the legacy that they're going to make for this season, and their challenge this week will be a good indicator of how it's going to go. Yeah,
well, that's a tough Gateway team. I saw they're ranked in #1 in the whole state in a lot of statewide rankings, so that just shows the kind of tough team that Gateway is. And Devin, it's nice to have a team here in Southwest PA getting the statewide love that Gateway is.
Yeah, I'm over from the southeast side of the state, so I don't really hear about any of these teams, but this team being first in the state, that's actually that gets your name out there and gets people scared of you pretty much.
Yeah, definitely. Teams out east are going to be hearing about this Gateway team, especially if they're able to get the win this week. We've been teasing that. That's all actually on our pick'ems coming up. Now let's get into the hometown standings. And Devin, your school here, Connor Weiser, sitting at the top there with Danny's school, Central Dolphins. So 3-0 in the conference, 4-1 overall there for Connor Weiser. Devin, your school, I think they're a powerhouse here in football.
Yeah, we can upset a couple teams and probably make a playoff run happen if we keep it going here. I actually know the quarterback personally really well, Alex McKenzie. He's really, really good, and it's his senior year, so he wants to go out with the championship at least. So
yeah, definitely. Club bottom there for Gary and Colin. So Colin, do you think your team can get out of club bottom this year? Is this the year they get out of club bottom? Oh.
I'll tell you what, I sure hope so. It's been since 2016 that Millersburg last captured a victory, and that was over Kennardale, which is a 4A school, so a 1A school beating a 4A school. You don't hear of that too much, but I say this every week, the offer still stands. Pizza for everybody around if Brownsville and Millersburg win in the same week.
Yeah, let's not mention who Brownsville's playing this week because they're playing Jeanette. So that'd probably be the biggest upset in the Whippeal all season long.
Might not be this week.
Yeah. It may not be this week, but now let's get into the most popular part of our show, the Pick'em standings. And Bobby D still sitting on top of those standings here. We take a look at them. Actually, Twitter Peeps actually came up and tied him this week. So Twitter Peeps making a run, guys, at the top of the Pick'em standings. Danny Beck, Peter Beck as we call him since he's at the bottom there. He is 9-9. Devin, you're tied with him there at 9-9. It's a tough week for you going 500 last week.
Yeah, I was. It was a lot of unexpected games. We even said on you guys even said on the show that there would probably be barely any blowouts, and ended up being more than
we expected. Teams we didn't really expect to get the win, like McGuffey over Beth Center for sure. And Colin, you and your puppy are tied somehow. So I think there's some conspiracy going on that you and your puppy are making similar picks here.
Well, you know what they say, great minds think alike, and she's a football kind of dog, so I don't think you can count out Sydney, the high school Roundup puppy.
So let's get into this week's Pick'em. Quite a bit of great games. Starting out this Monessen-Bentworth. Everybody going with Monessen, guys, but this Bentworth team showed some promise. Monessen just coming off a loss. This could be a game that they overlook this Bentworth squad.
Well, I mean, Bentworth did beat Brownsville, so really stepping up in classification. That's not an easy thing to really accomplish, as we know. Teams have numbers, and numbers really are everything in terms of high school football, having to have the same people play on both sides of the football. But nonetheless, I think Bentworth could have a chance, but I'm still going with Monessen regardless.
And let's get on into the next game, since everybody's going with Monessen here, and the puppy is the only one of us here picking Charleroi to lose to Beth Center. Devin, we've seen Charleroi a lot so far this season. It's tough to pick against them, isn't it?
Yeah, it is tough to pick against them, especially with their assertive passing game with Gino Pellegrini. So one of your favorite high school players right now.
He is definitely one of my favorites. Since the first time I saw him play, I was like, this kid is going to be legit, and he's still playing. So he's a young guy when I first saw him. So nice to see him there. See if the puppy on an island this week can make some headway in the standings. On into our next game here. It is Gary Elizabeth forward, and Danny, Gary, and Bobby D going with Derry here in this one. Everyone else establishing their trust in Elizabeth Ford. Colin, why are you picking Elizabeth Ford over Derry here in this one?
I'm all in on them. As we got to see them last year, I was really impressed with the kind of attack that they were running. They were able to get at it on the ground, running the ball very well, and just when they would kind of lull you to sleep with their rush attack, break out a quick play-action pass, and just absolutely torch you down the field. I'm all in on this EF team.
I've picked against them the last 2 weeks, and it's come back to bite me. So this week, I'm picking Elizabeth Ford, so let's see how that pans out. Knowing my luck, Derry probably wins, and probably wins in a blowout. Let's get into the next game here with Pick'em, and it is West Mifflin, Laurel Highlands. And guys, this is a tough West Mifflin team. facing a team on the rise there in Laurel Highlands, Colin.
Yeah, I picked Laurel Highlands last week, and they did indeed let me down, but I do believe this is going to be Stephen Ruffing's high roll of the week. He is going to go with the Mustangs here. It indeed is the high roll of the week. So look for them to fulfill his dream.
Yeah, without Steve here, you know that he's going to go Laurel Highlands. They could be playing Penn Trafford for all we know, and he would be going with Laurel Highlands. So let's get into the next game here in the Pick'ems. And what do you know? Stephen Ruffing on an island himself with North Hills beating Gateway. And guys, I don't think that would be an upset at all, Devin. North Hills is a tough team. These are the 1 and 2 teams ranked in the whole state facing off in a 5A matchup.
Yeah, I just feel Steve, speaking for Steve here, I feel like he just saw something that we might have not seen. But this Gateway team is also offensive powerhouse as well.
Yeah, that they are, and I think this is another Jody High Roller of the Week. Did you put that in there, Colin? But this is an unofficial Jody High Roller pick of the week, as he is on an island, is Stephen Ruffing there with North Hills beating Gateway. Let's get into our CUTV game of the week, and a lot of us going with Bell Vernon over Greensburg-Salem. And Devin, you helped with the highlights there with Greensburg-Salem, so you're going with Greensburg-Salem there in that matchup.
Yeah, I'm going with Greensburg-Salem. I feel like I've went with the majority the last 2 or 3 weeks for pick'ems. I kind of want to, get my own high roller going here. So.
Yeah, definitely. You have some headway to make up. You're sitting towards the bottom of our standings there, Kyle, tied with Danny, Gary, and yourself there at the bottom. So, Colin, pick'ems. Quite a list of pick'em teams this week.
Yeah, it was really when we were composing the list over the weekend, you and I both said, wow, we've got quite a list of pick'em for this week. A lot of great games, and look forward to this great action Friday night.
I'm kind of surprised that they were that everybody went with certain teams. Like, I'm surprised everyone went with Gateway over North Hills, because that's a game that's a toss-up. I mean, I don't know if that's how it would end up turning out. I think North Hills could easily beat Gateway. I almost went with them there. And like Gary was telling me, North Hills is a powerhouse team there in the Whitfield.
You really can never know. I mean, as we saw, the puppy went ahead and hopped on the North Hills bandwagon, if you will. But maybe she knows what's up this week. Maybe she knows.
Maybe the puppy knows best. Who knows? But let's go ahead. We've been talking about it all show long. Greensburg-Salem is playing Bell Vernon at Bell Vernon on the gold turf this week for our CUTV game of the week. So be sure to watch that, guys. It should be an exciting matchup.
Yeah, we'll be back on our own feed here, so you'll be able to see it on YouTube live as it happens, because for last week we did the PCN game, so they asked that we could keep their broadcast, essential and whatnot. But now we're back on YouTube, so you're local, you love 2 great teams, join us.
Yeah, definitely. Great. Bell Vernon, Mason Pasco, player to look out for in that game. And I know I'm a big Bell Vernon guy here. And I know that this is going to be one of their toughest tests of the season. They already fell to Thomas Jefferson, but this is going to be just as tough as a test. But now, wrapping up the show here, Devin, thank you for being a part of the show. Let's get into our top 3 plays now. And I'm going to take the ropes here for this one. Number 3 from that Washington California game. Coach East Ryan catching a beautiful pass, streaking down the middle of the field. Looks like a one-handed catch. It was close there as Coach East Ryan brings the ball in. Number 2, this play is from the Laurel Highlands Greensburg-Salem game. Just talking about them there. It's going to be a sweep as Aaron Putt takes it across the left side of the field, outruns the defense, makes a juke move on the corner. And here we're saying the defender, dive out, make a play right there, but Putt is too fast and gets past and into the end zone for a 70-yard run. And on into the number 1 play from this week. And guys, this was a tough play for me to pass up at number 1 as Swartz bobbled that ball against his feet, picks it up, passes it to his receiver, streaking down the sideline. And guys, is this play enough to top the blue ribbon play?
Not a chance.
And it is not enough, as Jacob Kisner from Bentworth still with the number 1 play of the year so far, the one-handed grab. But guys, this is a tough decision for me here in these top 3 plays. Again, big thank you to Red Dogs. Speaking of Bell Vernon, that's their location there in Bell Vernon. Thank you to Red Dogs for coming on and helping sponsor our show this year. But guys, tough. That Washington play was great there by Swartz.
Yeah, and a little kudos to me. I kind of want to toot my own horn here, but I did do the replay there. Yeah. So me just looking at that live, I thought he was going to get sacked because he had Jelani coming at him and he had another defender coming at him. Just keeps his head up, picks the ball up, sees a wide open player, and passes it to him.
Yeah, definitely quite a play. But let's go ahead and wrap up High School Roundup here. Thank you for watching. We'll be back next week to see how those pick'ems turned out. Be sure to tune in for that, as well as don't forget to vote on our Twitter poll. So thank you for watching High School Roundup here on CUTV.